On today's episode of Behind These Eyes, we're making a special recipe keepsake book. And now I'm going to show you how I made this special little keepsake book. This tiny little Italian lady is Big Mary Cerny, and she is the grandmother of one of the friends that I work with. She, despite having 3 strokes, taught herself to write again so that she could continue to write down all of her favorite recipes for her grandchildren. I think it's amazing, and these recipes are so much fun. They deserved a really special way to display them, so I wanted to make her something special. I wanted to go with a quilt type effect since it's an old recipe book. And to find the pattern, I used a calendar that my mom gave me back in 1995 that's full of calendar patterns. See, Mom, it does pay to save everything forever. So using that as a pattern guideline, I cut one piece of paper 8.5 by 11. I cut one that was 8.5 by 11 to be our cover. I then cut a 1-inch strip for an accent and 3 1-inch strips, they're 1 inch by 11, of a coordinating paper. I have one 3.5 by 3.5 inch square. This is the centerpiece, which was actually cut right from the background paper, and that's 1.5 by 1.5 inch square. And 2 sets of 1.5 by 3/4 inch rectangles. And then we're going to quilt with them. Following the pattern that was in the book, I laid it out on the background paper, and I went ahead and glued them down. Then I built my 4 quilt squares. And to do that, I just continued around until my square was complete, and I made 4 of those, which I also glued to the background paper. But I wanted it to be sturdy, and this is something that's going to be used in the kitchen, so I wanted it to be safe around food. So I went ahead and I put a layer of matte Mod Podge over the entire thing so that it would seal it a little bit and make it so it could be wiped off. To personalize it a little more, I added a picture of Big Mary, tiny little Big Mary. I put that on the center. It's a little off center, and I wanted to add a little more embellishment. So I used, again, from the Domestic Goddess collection. They have these great punch-out alphabets, so I spelled out Nana's because that's what they called her, was Nana. I covered them with some epoxies and put that along here. And it's Nana's recipe book, and I happened to find on this great thing of tags from Graphic 45, it actually says favorite recipes. I covered that with an epoxy, and I tied that onto some grape twine from the Twinery. Now this twine comes in all different bright colors, and I wanted it to have a little bit of a vintage feel, so I made a little pot of tea and just soaked it for a bit and kind of aged it. Tied that around the cover, added these funky little chicken and egg buttons from Blumenthal Lansing, which I thought were just adorable. Now she actually had this book made up ahead of time, but it was just bound with regular cover. But I wanted to disguise the pre-made cover to kind of give that a vintage feel too. So I took some old vintage ribbon I had going along, and I took a piece of fabric from one of my grandmother's old shirts that was the vintagey, tore it into strips and tied it along. Inside the book also has lots of additional pages done with the same papers, also Mod Podged, where I feel she can add photos or any other notes that she might want to have to remember Nana and her favorite recipes. We're going to share with you a PDF that you can download with some of Big Mary's favorite recipes. There's potato salad for 50, Big Mary's nut rolls, and lots of other fun things. And remember, if you're looking for ideas from an artist who dares to be different, you'll find her behind these eyes.